The murder of Jamal Khashoggi, the Saudi dissident journalist, inside the kingdom's consulate in Istanbul in Turkey on the 2nd of October has not only stunned all advocates of free speech and democratic rights around the world, but has also sent the US-Saudi relationship into a tailspin. The relationship has always been under a microscope, but the presence of the new Prince Mohammed bin Salman, seen as a reformer on the world stage, did ease things up a bit. The United States now is unsure of how to make sense of this murder, in fact ascribing it in some cases to rogue elements within the Saudi regime. Clearly, it's a murder that has left Washington stunned as well. After all, Khashoggi was a columnist for the Washington Post. They carried blank pages in place of his column once news of his killing had come out. But key questions are posed for the Saudi regime itself. Blamed for this murder, it's arguing that it had nothing to do with it, but let's not forget the murder took place within the consulate. So if there were indeed rogue elements operating in the Saudi regime, they were operating under the nose of the kingdom's officials. Could they be Saudi intelligence? Could they be could they have actually done this with the blessing of the Saudi prince? Now, these are important questions. After all, let's not forget, every report that's coming in on Khashoggi's killing indicates that it was extremely well planned. They had called him in ostensibly to discuss his future and his return to Saudi Arabia, but there was a forensic specialist in place because his body was dismembered after he was killed and taken out of the consulate in suitcases. All this while somebody dressed like Khashoggi emerged from the consulate, so they could say that he had actually left the building. Many questions around this, very few answers. The Turkish president has spoken about what happened in the consulate.
It is clear that a planning activity has taken place. Some people have been informed about his visit. All information and evidence shows that Jamal Khashoggi was killed in a violent, savage murder. This is the details of this incident. This murder is capable of hurting our hearts, human hearts. Saudi Arabia has taken an important step. What is expected of them from now on is to bring to light bring forward those who are responsible for this, and also towards the fact that this was a planned operation rather than an accidental death.
But as I said, questions in the United States. Now, Professor Barnett Rubin, who is a close watcher of Afghanistan in the New York University, was also a very good friend of Jamal Khashoggi's, and he spoke to us about what this murder really means for Saudi Arabia and its road to reform, and what it means for the US-Saudi equation. Professor Rubin, you were a very good friend, or I mean, you knew Jamal Khashoggi quite well, the Saudi journalist who was killed in the consulate in Turkey. Can you tell us what you think was the rationale behind that killing?
Well, Jamal Khashoggi was, of course, he was very much a member of the establishment, and he had a great deal of influence, and he was writing for the Washington Post.
Right.
You know, so he was becoming influential in Washington. And he also had the aspiration, which is a thing that the Saudi government hates more than anything, of establishing an Arab TV channel and media company that would operate freely throughout the Arab world. He had already tried that once, you see, with the help of funding from Prince Walid bin Talal. He set up a station called Al Arab, in Bahrain. They spent millions of dollars on it, and then first day the TV was open, broadcast, they interviewed an opposition figure from Bahrain who was Shia, and they shut it down the next day. So now he was thinking of using the Washington Post as a base for doing something else like that. That's why he wanted to move back to Istanbul. He wanted to do that from Istanbul. In other words, to create another Al Jazeera, but an Al Jazeera that was run by a very prominent Saudi.
Right.
And that's the kind of, and therefore, they wanted him to come back because he had prestige, an important family, and all that. But he refused because they wanted him to come back and serve the regime. And I think it's very possible that the choice he was given in the consulate was come back and serve the regime or die. And he died. They killed him.
So the fact that it was done in the consulate is clear that the Saudi regime had a hand in his killing. I mean, there are reports from Washington as well that said, oh, there were rogue elements within the Saudi regime. But so, I mean, neither way does it look good for Saudi Arabia. Either you have rogue elements within your consulate or you're complicit.
So it seems clear to me that Mohammed bin Salman was behind it. Now, it's quite possible that they tried to do one thing and something else happened. If you try to do something like that, that's very often the result. But there are many signs that they were prepared for just what they did. You know, they brought the forensic surgeon. They had a body double dress up in Jamal's clothes to pretend that he left a mission and so on. So it looks extremely suspicious.
So what is the U.S. response?
The U.S. response so far is very confused because we were torn between, and I mean we as a society, there are different individuals on different sides, and those individuals may not be torn, but as a society we are torn between those who value the money that we make from Saudi Arabia, the fact that if we want to confront Iran, we need Saudi Arabia's oil to keep the price of oil at a reasonable level. It is a grave violation of human rights.
Thank you very much, Professor Rubin.
To receive instant updates on all videos from The Wire, click the subscribe button and hit the bell icon. Pay to support independent journalism. Click the link in the description and choose the amount you want to pay.